This is all about building a European copper producer, and we're starting with copper in Sweden. I will be making some forward-looking statements today, and if there's anything you don't believe or want to challenge us on, come to our booth and we'll definitely have an answer for you. So let's just cut straight to the chase here. 100% of a high-quality copper asset is owned by Avalon. It's a near-term development scenario. We've got incredible upside, which I'll demonstrate to you, and we're the envy of most mining companies with the infrastructure support we already have in place. So we're in a mining district, and all the infrastructure is already there. We have arguably the best team of any junior out there. This was part of the cleanup, and we've really put together a great team that covers geology, exploration, mining, building copper mines, financing copper mines, and taking this thing through to a decision to build target in 2017. The corporate structure is nice and clean, and we would argue very strongly that we're severely undervalued, and certainly when you compare us to peer companies, a market cap of 7 million is almost unbelievable. So what's the focus? The focus for us, 90% of our effort is in taking the Viscaria copper deposit in northern Sweden to production. So that comprises a scoping study completed before the end of this year. We're growing the D-zone resource. It continues to give outstanding results. We announced some recently where we had a 150 metre wide intercept of copper, and within that intervals like 10 metres at 2% copper. So it continues to just get better and better as we go deeper. We've got some additional high-grade targets at A-zone, which I'll show you about as well. And then all of that is delivering to this decision to mine in 2017. 10% of our effort, and it's very focused, is on exploring the belt that's within about 5 kilometres of the Viscaria deposit. We've turned up some outstanding targets. We've drilled one of them. We've got a rig mobilised to a second one. And we've got a whole lot of areas that have seen 1 or 2 holes historically that have never been followed up that have intersected copper. So all these already have copper in them. We've just got to get out there and drill some holes. Just briefly on corporate, listed on the ASX, we've got about $3 million in cash, 7 million market cap, hard to believe. Top 10 shareholders hold 65% of our stock. Now, 12 months ago, we had no investors from the UK and Europe. We now have 42% of our stock held by those. So we've got very, very good traction in Europe and the UK. People, I guess, understanding a European copper opportunity and jumping on board. Board and management have participated in the last placements that we've made as well. So we're putting our own cash into this company to grow it as we think we can. So where are we located? Northern Sweden. We're 140 kilometres north of the Arctic Circle, which sounds horribly remote, but it's not at all. We're right next to the town of Kiruna, which is a town with a wonderful mining heritage. It's the world's largest underground magnetite mine, been operating for 120 years. It's a bit like taking a Broken Hill or a Mount Isa and putting it into northern Sweden. So great mining heritage. We're 330 kilometres by rail to a copper smelter operated by Scandinavian company Boliden. We're talking to them about what may happen after we make our decision to build. So it's a very, very good location, access to infrastructure, cheap hydropower. There was an article in the Australian today by another copper producer about producing green copper, reducing the carbon footprint. Ours will be very low. It's cheap hydropower, cheap electric rail right next door. So we aspire to be a long-term copper producer starting at greater than 20,000 tonnes of copper a year in 4 years' time. We're doing that by delivering a scoping study before the end of the year, decision to build 2017. Top 100 metres of our resource is running greater than 1.2%, and below that we're looking at grades ranging from 1.7 to 2.3. This project historically has had an iron component. We're no longer pursuing that for obvious reasons. This is all about a copper story. So this is what it looks like. The orange are our ore bodies. So the long one on the left-hand side there is A-zone. That was a historic mine in the 80s and 90s. B-zone running parallel to it, and then D-zone. D-zone's 1 kilometre long. So that's the area that we've been focusing all of our attention on. Those 3 deposits are covered by 3 exploitation concessions, which is like a mining lease, valid through to 2037. So we have very secure tenure. And then surrounding that are exploration permits outlined in yellow. LKAB, bottom right of that image, that's the underground iron mine operations. And then just to the right, off the picture to the right of that lake is the town of Kirina. So we're about 2 kilometres out of town. So this will obviously be a residential development. People will live in town and travel out to the mine. This is a long section of D zone. So we've had a lot of news flow in the last few weeks, and all of that news flow is coming from D zone primarily. If we have a look at, so I said that was 1 kilometre long, and then that's the base of our published resource. So that's the 14 million tonnes at 1% copper. So you can see our drill holes are below that, so we're expanding the resource. This resource is going to grow. And we're seeing it get wider and higher grade. So we're developing quite a thick system there. That was where the 150 metres of about 0.4% copper was intersected, but within that 10 metres at 2% copper. Similarly, on the other southern lens, a lot of open space still to drill with 2 holes programmed for there over the next few months. And all of that is within 500 metres, which is still very shallow. So our mining studies group are taking this work and obviously getting ready for a release of a scoping study. We're putting some mining plans around it. So we've got a couple of open pits down to a maximum depth of about 150 metres. Obviously some stopes developed in the top 400 metres, and then a decline coming off the bottom of the open pits. So that's all happening at the moment, and this will be presented formally in a scoping study before the end of the year. So our global resource is 55 million tonnes at just over 1% copper. But our focus right now is to deliver 10 to 12 million tonnes at 1.2% or thereabouts, or 1% in an open cut scenario, and about 2% in our underground scenario. We've already got about 8 or 9 million tonnes of that, so we're well on the way to delivering what we have to deliver to produce what we consider to be a viable project opportunity outlined in the scoping study. Now, in addition to that, we've got significant upside. So as I said, 90% of our work is about getting Viscaria going, but 10% of our focused work is about growing our resource and really understanding what we've got within an easy trucking distance of Viscaria. So that image there, it's about 7 kilometres from top to bottom. The development area, the area that I showed you before, is that. So that's our A, B and D zone. We've been doing some work, and if you've been following our announcements, you would have seen some of these results. Nika, 2 kilometres from an old mine, had never been explored before. There's no surface expression, it's under glacial gravel. It's a very nice looking magnetic target. We did some shallow drilling, found some chalcopyrite or copper in those samples, followed it with a diamond hole and intersected an iron oxide copper system. So this thing is mineralised, so we've got follow-up work to do there. West Noosa, we've mobilised a drill rig there yesterday to start drilling the first diamond hole. Prior to this, we drilled a number of shallow auger holes where we drilled down through the gravel into the bedrock. We drilled 49 holes, and of those, 18 had visible chalcopyrite or copper minerals in them, and up to 0.5% copper. This has defined an anomaly that's 1.2 kilometres long. So if you go back to D zone, where we've got our resource, that's 1 kilometre long. So that's the sort of target that we're looking at for West Noosa. And then a number of other areas. One historic drill hole, 1.6 and 2.5% copper, never followed up. Another one to the east. One drill hole, 1 metre at 2.5, 2 at 1. So, these areas, Bapagoba, 7 metres, 1%, these haven't been followed up. So you can see that the point here is that we're going to development, we're going to build a mine, but the potential scale of this opportunity is much more significant than the 10 to 12 million tonnes and the 10-year mine life. We're going to be in this area for many decades. And what makes this so attractive is the infrastructure. It's all in place and it's high quality. 20,000 people that are there because of a mining heritage. They're all skilled. National sealed highway to the mine gate. Public access electric railway, we're already in discussions with the railway provider. If we need to access it, there's plenty of capacity. Cheap hydropower. Sweden has an excess of power in its northern provinces. So we're doing our financial modelling at 8 cents a kilowatt hour. We'll probably get it for less than that, 5 or 6. That's about a quarter of what we pay in Australia for power. So again, bringing down our operating costs. Contractors and equipment manufacturers. Our core shed is actually in the original shed that was operated by Kirina Truck, which, for those of you that know the history of mining equipment in Australia, those things have been used here. So we're spoilt for choice on how we support this development. And a wonderful mining heritage. Stakeholder engagement. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do with the Kirina Township, and we're doing that already. The other major stakeholder in this area are a Scandinavian indigenous group called the Sami, who have the right to herd reindeer. So on that right-hand image, you can see those yellow corridors are where twice a year they herd reindeer through this area. Fortunately for us, our mining development is not coexisting with those corridors, so we can coexist in the area quite well. And most importantly, as you can see in purple there on the left-hand diagram, we are within an area that's defined as national interest for minerals. So permitting a minerals development has priority over other land use areas. As I said at the outset, an absolutely high-quality team. We've built this team over the last 18 months. 4 of us are here for this conference. So our chairman, Graham Ascough, myself, our GM Studies, Ray Robinson, and our CFO, Company Secretary, Gavin Light, are all here. So come to the booth and have a chat to us. We've also recently added Bruce Rawlack to our team. Bruce is one of the best copper discoveries on the planet, so he's going to help us grow this story. And then a couple of non-executive directors, Crispin Henderson, a banker out of London, and Don Heimer, who's a minerals process engineer by background, but a senior executive currently with Mitsui. So an absolutely fantastic team that can deliver on this development plan. So this is the timeline. We can go through this in detail if you come to the booth. But again, the key points here: scoping study before the end of the year, decision to build 2017, and permitting, which is commenced. So our environmental and social impact assessment is commenced, and we think that's about a 2-year program as it goes through the Land and Environment Court in Sweden. So that's really the time-determining step for our ability to build this mine. So why should you own Avalon Minerals? Lots of reasons. 100% of a high-quality asset. So we really hold our future in our own hands. Low-risk mining district. It's been mining there and mining supportive for 120 years. Infrastructure, which is the envy of most developers. Sweden, great country to operate in, very low sovereign risk, obviously. Our path to production is very clear. We know what we have to do and we know what the steps are. Strong leverage to copper, and I think there's general agreement amongst analysts that the copper price is on its way up, and we're hoping to hit it at a peak when we're producing copper in 2018. We're very confident we'll deliver exploration success, so this is bigger than what we present just on Viscaria, and in our opinion, very, very undervalued. So 7 million market cap, we've got 3 million in the bank, so it's an enterprise value of about $4 million for a project that has a very clear path to development. So come to the booth, have a chat to us, get more of the detail, and certainly keen to talk to you and walk you through the story again. So thanks very much for your time.